Welcome back, everyone, to the third episode of the Socratic Cinema Podcast. My name is Charlie Heatherly.
I'm Hallie Phillips.
I'm James DeLisio.
My name's Casey Clark.
And for this episode, we all watched La La Land.
Yeah.
Woo! Fantastic little film that I think Casey's got a good summary of.
Alright, so the two main characters are Sebastian and Mia. Sebastian is a purist, a jazz purist, and Mia is a struggling actress. They meet very serendipitous. They meet in random places, and they eventually find a connection, and they grow together, and they basically fall in love. However, they find that they may not be as compatible as they originally believed, and we get a bittersweet ending where they are content with not really having that happy ending with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they decide to split up and pursue their own dreams, right, instead of staying together.
Yeah.
Right.
As a film, I think the most interesting part about it is sort of a clash of stereotypes and then what actually happens.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
The contrast between reality and wishes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, exactly. You have the great color theory that hopefully,
do.
when we say we'll go into it this time, in this
We'll go
episode,
into
we
it.
will go into it.
We're working on it.
But my favorite part of the entire movie was this idea of sort of stereotypes and just plain feelings. Like the first scene we see is a very happy, overly colorful, like sort of super musical number where it's, on this freeway in LA, and then we cut immediately to people being angry at each other, because of the traffic. And that theme of expectations versus reality clashes a lot in the film, and the ending and the entire plot just it perfectly portrays what reality actually is and what you can go into expecting in a relationship, all these bright fun colors and love, but sometimes it just won't work out.
Yeah. Well put.
Very, very poetic.
Yeah, I agree. I think the movie centers around this theme of expectations because all of these people, you see in the beginning, they're all here for the same reason, this expectation that they're going to have their dreams fulfilled in LA. But still, they only have, one job where they came here with nothing and there's still nothing for them. So you see this whimsical musical side to their wishes and their dreams and Another Day of Sun, but then you switch back to the reality of their expectations.
Yeah, I just love this movie so much.
Mm-hmm.
This was only my second watch through, but I can safely say it's in my top 3 movies ever.
Whoa.
Ever. I know,
Yeah.
big thing. I loved all the countless references to other musicals and classic movies like Singin' in the Rain and Casablanca, which I'm gonna definitely get into a lot. The soundtrack, as a big jazz fan myself, I loved seeing all the quips and references from Sebastian. That stuff really hit home. Like all the influences in the soundtrack really resonated with me, and I just loved the movie through and through. Nothing I didn't like about it.
Yeah, I would agree. This is such a beautiful movie. This was my first time watching it, and I was utterly even to the, the first, the opening scene, because I've seen, it was really hard to escape La La Land when it first came out, because it was all over the place. So I'd seen, some of the dance numbers, but I hadn't really picked up on the story, and the story is kind of where all the all the meat is. It's very interesting because it doesn't feel like a musical, it feels like a story with musical numbers in it, and I feel like that's very important. Each of the musical numbers is just an opening of a chapter in each of these characters' lives. I feel like it was very interesting between the acts, seeing the dynamic change between Sebastian and Mia, how they kind of go from taking power from one another and taking the lead. Mia takes Sebastian's lead, and then when Sebastian's gone, she has to go and be independent, and she has to truly believe in herself. And even though she is very insecure, and that's a very important plot point when it comes to her auditions, it doesn't mean that Sebastian, if Sebastian hadn't come and pushed her to go to that last audition, she wouldn't have been as successful. So even throughout the entire movie, they're still impacting each other's lives.
I think my favorite part about the characters is that they're real people. The fact that Mia has this problem with insecurity, like you said, is a massive indicator of fantastic writing, where the characters you're writing aren't perfect, and they can't be perfect, and that's such a common trope that a lot of rom-coms will fall into, or musicals or anything like that, where your characters are pretty good people, and then they'll just make a mistake or something, and then everything's happy at the end. But we see that actions do indeed have consequences, especially in emotional connections between people. And the way that they portray the relationship is the real triumph of the film to me, because it's such a dynamic sort of circumstance that they're in. But once you cut to the emotional scenes, like the arguments between the two or the slow talks, the camera stops moving around and it gets very still and static, and you get to focus in on the emotion more. And just that emphasis really drove home the quality of the movie for me.
Yeah, I think your point about flaws was really insightful, because like you were saying with Mia, her insecurity as an actor kind of shows how how dynamic the characters really are. And like Sebastian, as passionate and loving as he is, he's also very self-centered, and he believes that he's always justified, right? It's kind of hard for him to see other sides of the story, like and that you see how that sort of self-centeredness leads to the relationship's kind of downfall. He can't understand why he at one point in the movie he decides to start playing with a more modern band, right? Because it's a stable job. He sort of sacrifices his love of traditional jazz, and he just can't understand why Mia isn't happy with him sacrificing his dream. Like, he will only ever look at things through his perspective, and he believes that everything he's doing is heroic and justified, without thinking about how it's impacting other people. And I think that's sort of Sebastian's like major flaw.
He has this really cool cat jazz vibes sort of going to him, and he definitely, like you said, he's very headstrong. He thinks whatever he does is right, and what happens there's a clash between which love is greater, and that's love for a passion and then love for other people. So both he and Mia have to choose between their profession and their personal connection. And again, you see this theme of expectations versus reality, this conflict sort of coming in where people think that they can have it all. But too often the circumstances that people find themselves in will lead them to drift apart because they're trying to follow what they love more. And in some cases, some will answer that with people. I think Mia sort of leaned more towards the people side, while Sebastian leaned definitely more towards the career side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's safe to say that the biggest theme in the movie is like expectation versus reality, or dreams versus love, right? Profession versus people. It's like, are you going to pursue your own happiness and your own success, or are you going to put it aside and love someone else, no matter what happens? And as we see in the movie, they end up choosing themselves. They choose their own careers, and they go their separate ways. And it's almost bittersweet and somber, but I think it's important to note that as sad as the ending is, when we look at Mia and Sebastian 5 years later after they split in the epilogue, they're both leading objectively happy and successful lives, right? Mia got married, has a family, she's a famous actress. Sebastian finally opened his jazz club and is, looks like he's having the time of his life. So even though they didn't choose love, right? Even though they chose their own comfort and success, they still got where they were going. They still found their own happiness.
But can't you argue that the end also revealed the contrast between destiny and passion? Because either way, either side, Emma Stone or Mia still got to be an actress. She was still a famous actress. It was Sebastian who had to choose either between love and passion.
Right.
So,
yeah, I think that the epilogue, though, it's important because it's you go through this whole flash sequence, 5 years later, Mia sees Sebastian in the club after they've been estranged, and she has this whole flashback of what could have been if they did choose love. But I think it's important, because the movie doesn't tell you anything, right? It's up to you to interpret it.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to think, well, I mean, it's nice to see what could have been, but does that necessarily mean that she would go back and change it, right? Because, I mean, there's a lot of times, like, in my own experience where I think, oh, what if I did things differently? But while it's nice to think about, I can still say that I wouldn't have done things any other way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's sort of a nice fantasy to think about, but I still stand, like, by my choices, and I think it's up to the viewer to decide whether Mia is regretful or more just like,
Yeah.
that's a pretty fantasy.
I mean, the big question is, like, is personal love greater than profession? Because we did see, as you said, both are objectively happy endings for them. I mean, they both followed their dreams in one ending, and then in the sort of fantasy ending, they both fell in love with each other. And the question the movie is posing is, which one makes you happier? Or does that even matter at all if you're already happy?
Right.
And it brings in this idea of sort of remorse and regret.
And I completely agree. I think your point is illustrated best in the scene where they're playing Start a Fire, where on stage Sebastian looks really happy while Mia is in the crowd very confused, because I don't think she's ever heard them play. The Messengers is what the band's name is. Ever heard them play before, which is on a deeper level that he's kind of cut her out of that part of his life. And then physically, while he's playing, she gets pushed back in the crowd, which I symbolize that she is getting pushed away from his lifestyle, his new lifestyle. And when he comes back to her and he's like, oh, I'm going on tour, and she's like, oh, well, I can't go with you. It's basically that Sebastian, in his stubbornness and in his kind of dedication to pushing through on this new, like, his new, like, touring life and his all this stuff, that he wants Mia to adapt for him, but he really hasn't, like, shown the ability or even, like, the amount of care to want to do that for her.
So I definitely do think, I agree that Sebastian was more of the instigator and he was a little bit more problematic than Mia. But it's important to note that his joining the Messengers and sort of pushing aside his dreams of traditional jazz and pushing away Mia, sort of, it did come from a place of love, right? Like, he knew that he was going to need to support her. And that was his motive for joining the Messengers. It wasn't, as selfish as his actions were afterwards, his intentions were good, right? He thought, I'm going to need to support her. This pays the bills, right? I can put my dreams aside to support Mia, right? Through the band. But, as we saw, things didn't work out that way because he got very defensive about it when she started, like, oh, what about your dream? But yeah, I did love the whole montage where we see the Messengers are on tour and Mia is writing her play, and I think that montage is sort of the turning point from their choosing love to now they're starting to split and choose their careers again, right? She's focusing on her play and he's off on tour. And I just thought that was, like, really interesting how you can pinpoint, the turning point in their relationship. Yeah, that was a really good point, though.
And you can pinpoint the same turning point with colors. A lot of the time the movie's very color heavy. And Hal, you had a great theory about all that.
I did. Because what I noticed, first off, if anyone watches this movie, you notice the primary color usage in most of the beginning of the movie. When Emma Stone, or me and Sebastian, I feel like I'm just going to call them Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling. But
people know.
Yes. So Mia's always in either yellow or blue, and Sebastian's always in red. And I looked up the symbolism to this because I was like, there must be something that, Damien Chazelle and all these people who were working on this wanted to convey with these colors. And so I noticed that when they were together, this kind of purple kind of happened, when they're out dancing after the party and it's the purple lights out, or when Sebastian's singing City of Stars, it's that purple mesh. There's always that mesh of colors. And so I started to notice, like in the messenger scene, when she was getting pushed aside, she was saturated in this blue light. And then when he was up on stage, he was in this dense red light. And I started noticing that colors, that whenever they're together and they had this love connection, they started focusing on each other. It was that purple light that they were always surrounded. But then you notice these parts where there's a little accent of blue always around Emma, which you see at the beginning of the movie in her first audition, is kind of herself, her identity in this blue color, and that she sees this joy and brightness when she's out in public and everything with Sebastian at the party. But that was one of the things I noticed, because, you know, red, I looked at the symbolism into that, and that's like passion and ferocity, which is really represented by Sebastian, which we see in his identity in the beginning of the film, and then blue for Mia being solid and calm and I want to say resourceful almost. Not resourceful, but more elegant almost, like in her identity.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point to make, with the red and blue distinction especially. Like you were saying, in the beginning of the movie, Sebastian is like violently into jazz almost. Like
Yes.
he you know, our first shot of him is him sitting in his car rewinding the same 5-second clip of jazz so he can get that harmony or that rhythm right, which, you know, that was also kind of cool to see, because I have definitely done that before. But you know, he's so alienating with his, you know, traditional jazz is the only way to go and anything else isn't real jazz, right? He's heartbroken that they turned his favorite jazz club into a samba tapa place. And that sort of thing, and so he's characterized by that passionate red, whereas Mia is more calm and collected. Like she knows a little bit more what she's doing with the blue. Like even when things go wrong for her audition, she spills the coffee on herself. She puts on her blue jacket and, you know, goes with the flow a little bit. And you could. I'm not sure, but just off the top of my head, I'm thinking we have Mia in blue and Sebastian in red. And the first time you see Keith, the leader of the messengers who sort of starts to pull Sebastian astray, is wearing a bright yellow turtleneck the first time we see him.
Yes, and he breaks that color meshness that we see in the jazz club. He's the only person who has a bright color on in that jazz club. So it kind of makes him seem as the contrasting power, because in the beginning it's all the contrasting elements of Hollywood. You've got the big people who are trying to pull Sebastian and Mia away from their meshness of love and relationship. And that's why her roommates are in primary colors, and at the party you see all these big bright reds and greens and blues and purples. And that's why when I saw Keith in the yellow, I was like, he's representing that attraction.
Yeah, Keith is, I think, very much like the embodiment of pursuing, more of pursuing your dreams and like commercial success and everything. Keith is sort of like, Keith sort of represents picking. It's like he's the embodiment of picking yourself over loving other people, right? Because he's the one who initially pulls Sebastian away into the messengers and on tour and everything. It's not like Sebastian sort of sought it out. Keith kind of brought it to him, which I think is an interesting point to be made. Which makes me think if there's is there any sort of, at least to you guys, does anyone stick out as like the opposite of Keith, I guess, like an embodiment of love or anything, or am I just kind of imagining things?
I don't know. I think the embodiment of love in the movie would definitely be the conflict between the two, where, I mean, like, you see them as Hallie said, you know, you got the red and the blue, two entirely separate people, and then they come together to create a new color, and it's this beautiful thing, and I don't think there's one character that will represent that, but it's more of a series of connections between people, where connections are where the love's found, not in a person.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And then the whole yellow thing is, it's like, you know, desire and success and stuff like that, and you're trying to pull people away from that mixing of color, that connection, and as that's happening, the movie splits the colors back up. Instead of having them mix, it will take them apart. And then another interesting thing. Sorry, I'm eating in and out as we do this. I'm dying. Another interesting thing that I saw is during the conversations that Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone would have where it got really heated. It was in green light.
Yes.
So what do you guys think about that?
Like I said, I looked up the symbolism for green, and it was like ambition. I remember seeing ambition because it could also represent nature and calmness, but the other side of it, the opposite side of it, it represented like just greed, ambition, and selfishness.
Yeah.
So when I saw that there was that green lighting behind them, I instantly thought of that when the argument happened.
Yeah. Green is like greed, ambition, jealousy,
Yeah,
like the
jealousy.
green-eyed monster thing.
Mm-hmm.
And back to Keith a little bit. As I was watching, because I feel like as I was watching the movie, I was almost thinking of Keith as almost like a foil to Sebastian. He really brings out Sebastian's qualities with how opposite they are, right? Sebastian is a purist and a traditionalist, and he wants to hold on to the past, and he sticks hard in the beginning, at least. He sticks hard to pursuing his dreams of opening a jazz club. But we see Keith, who's this modernist, and he's looking forward to the future of jazz, and he's all about reinventing it for the young people. And he's also violently commercial, right? Going on tour, and he's willing to compromise, I guess, the Sebastian's traditional standards of jazz in pursuit of commercial success.
And you might call me crazy, and this might not lead anywhere. Is the movie anti-capitalist then? If it's saying that capitalism and
Oh my gosh, Charlie!
will drown out love.
I think it's more. I don't think it's necessarily anti-capitalist so much as it is just.
It's a socialist movie. We can all agree.
Of course, at the end of the day, red.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
It's all coming full circle.
But I don't know if it was so much. Yeah, I don't know if it was so much anti-capitalist as it is just like.
Just throwing out some things.
Yeah, as it is, commercial success versus love, and like, are you gonna sell out and follow your and pursue your own career, or are you gonna settle and meet a middle ground with someone, right?
Mm-hmm. What it definitely is relating to business is the industry of Hollywood and stardom in general. And I know that Hallie probably has the closest connection to that.
Okay, when this movie first came out, I was just really delving into my film interest. I went to go see it like 5 times. I was like, I felt so represented in this movie, but also I got to see this other side of Hollywood. Because living in LA, you get to see every single one of these characters. I would just laugh at the summer parties because, you go, it's such a dynamic situation, this city we're all living in. And being in the film industry is definitely, I wouldn't say it was not represented well. It was definitely represented well throughout and through, because I actually got to walk on the set of La La Land where they had the coffee film and where they had that nice little walk through everything. I remember seeing that for the first time and being like, this is what I want to do. And I feel like that resonated with a lot of viewers who wanted to be actresses, or even people who wanted, to pursue jazz or anything. I feel like both sides of the music and film industry were represented really well. Yeah. I appreciated that a lot.
I think it was a very realistic take, because maybe almost as a secondary theme to ambition versus love is like almost kind of the disillusionment of Hollywood, right? It kind of shows like this is not all glitz and glamour. Like it's hard, and you're down on your luck, and it's a struggle, and that almost
it ties into the theme of expectations versus reality.
Yeah,
as well.
It's very I think a big part of the movie is like just the struggle that you have to face to get your dream out there. I was going somewhere with that, I swear. But I thought, no, I'm kind of accidentally completely changing the subject, but it sort of comes with the Hollywood set thing that Hallie was talking about. I thought it was crazy how throughout the movie, they didn't construct hardly constructed any sets. Like, you could physically go to all of the places they shot in the movie, which I thought was crazy. Like, I remember there's one part where Mia and Sebastian are walking across the Universal set, the back lot, and they're seeing these people filming something. And I was looking at that shot, and it was so surreal to me. I thought to myself, like, I've been down this street before. Like, what is it? They do this thing at Universal Studios, the studio tour thing, where they just drive you out on the bus. like that's that route they take you on is exactly what they were filming at in La La Land, and it was so crazy to me. Like, I've been here.
Yeah, and that montage, that summer montage they do when they first start to become together. They do that whole thing around LA. All the spots, the Angel's Flight, the market, what is that called? The Global Market or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. They visit all those places.
Yeah, it was crazy. And I think, I know my sister once took a La La Land tour of LA. She just went
Really?
up, or like,
Really?
they went out and they just saw so many of the places where they filmed that. I think, I'm not 100% sure, but there was even one shot where, do you guys know that big bridge in Pasadena? You drive by it on the freeway?
Yes.
I think there was one shot on
It
there
was,
in the
yeah.
summer montage, and it was just so surreal to me, like, wow, like, they didn't, this movie was really kind of just a love letter to LA. Like, they just went out in the streets and filmed, right? They just closed off a normal freeway for another
In
day
LA,
of sun sequence.
which is saying something.
I know.
To
It's,
make the traffic even more hell.
yeah, I know. It was crazy. Speaking of Another Day of Sun, do we want to touch on that? Because there is...
I think we need to touch on all the songs, because we're fortunate enough to have two panel members that are very close to music. We have James, who is a professional,
Whoa.
amazing,
Yeah,
amazing musician, and then we have Casey, who's a fantastic dancer, also
Yeah.
a bona fide professional. But yeah, Another Day of Sun. What do you want to say about that?
I mean, there's just so much... I mean, there's so much to unpack.
Okay, I'll be honest. When I first saw the movie, I saw that opening scene and I was very worried, very concerned for the rest of the movie.
Really?
I saw it and I was like, okay, this is very cliche and in my face right now. Like, it was just presenting me with... I felt like it was going to set on what was going to happen the rest of the movie, but it actually didn't, which I was
Yeah, I
excited
think
for. But
it sort of serves to set up the conflict between what all these people are coming to LA to pursue and what reality is actually like, right? Because the whole song is sort of fanciful and it's glamorous.
It's very fantastical.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fantastical. and then we cut to blaring horns and people giving each other the finger because they're not taking their turn in the lane and
because it's LA.
yeah. But man, just throughout the whole opening song sequence, I mean, the fact that it's one take is
Crazy.
is ridiculous. This movie does a lot of one take stuff.
Yes, it
It's
does.
amazing.
The
It's
choreography on that's crazy. Casey,
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I wrote down some choreography notes. The style is very... It's mostly tap and contemporary, but it reminded me a lot of West Side Story with, like, the sharp lines and, like, the kind of fluid motions. And I just, like, I loved, especially how it was, like, one shot, and so you're just, like, spinning, and you're over here, and then you're over here, and then you're just seeing all these people, and it's really just, it is truly, like, a love letter to LA, because it shows all of these different, like, types of people. You see all these different, like, races, ethnicities, like, backgrounds. Like, what stood out to me is, like, the dance circle, where you see, like, this, like, woman in her maybe 50s, late 40s, like, dancing, like, samba, and then, like, you switch over, and then this guy, like, doing some, like, insane, like, crump movements in the middle. And then you're, like, opening like the U-Haul, and there are, like, musicians in the U-Haul. And just on a side note, all the musicians that they used in the movie were, like, actually, like, LA based musicians.
Really?
Oh,
so
that's
you can, like, go
crazy.
and find them. And I was like, oh, that's amazing. And yeah, it was just really, like, it was just really fun. And it was, as Holly said, like, if you're not, like, a musical person, like, it will definitely scare you, because that's, like, a very, like, coordinated dance movements,
it's
and now
very-
we're on top of cars, and it's, like, it's very, very classic, like, cliche musical, but, like, as James was saying, like, the instant, like, switch over to reality definitely, like, sets up how the movie is going to, like, how linear the movie is going to be. Like, the two arcs of, like, being fantastical and being, like, rooted in reality is very interesting.
Yeah, and I think it's also interesting how Another Day of Sun, without introducing you to any of the main characters throughout the sequence, it almost kind of reflects the whole movie. And stick with me.
Oh, I'm ready for this. I'm so ready for this.
I mean, the two main singers in the verses are an aspiring actress, and the second verse is a jazz drummer. It's implied through the lyrics that he's a drummer. Rhythms and banging on doors and stuff. That's just sort of what I picked up. Much like how Mia is an aspiring actress and Sebastian is a jazz pianist. But it also, the whole song is about how they left behind their lovers and came to pursue their dreams, right? That's pretty much most of the content of the verses. How they left love behind and are now pursuing their careers, which is pretty much exactly what happens in the movie. It's an actress and a musician, and they're in love, but they decide to put that behind them and pursue their careers. So Another Day of Sun almost, in a way, kind of sets up the whole movie, which I thought was crazy.
Yeah, and the songwriters for the movie were Pasek and Paul, who are two of my favorite people ever. They're the same people who did Dear Evan Hansen, if anyone's familiar with that. And they have this ability in their song lyrics and the songs that they craft to almost make mini stories in them, and they manage to imbue so much human emotion into it. And I think that's a fantastic point about the first song being sort of a metaphor for the entire movie, or at least a small little synopsis of it. I mean, we probably could have just sang that song for the summary part of our podcast, but
yeah,
honestly,
they're so incredibly good at taking a story and imbuing it with music. And although the movie isn't like a pure stage musical, it has hints of that in there, and it could be one of the most what's the word I'm looking for, multi-medium films I've ever seen, because you're taking things from, like, I mean, what you said, dance, you have theater, you have film, just all these different parts of life they're taking together and putting them into something. Also, sorry for my dog barking, he probably sees a squirrel or something, but it's such an amazing film when it all comes together, and there's a million ways it could have failed. A million ways it could have failed, but they managed to keep it all together.
And I'd love to touch more on the soundtrack for a little bit, if that's all right with you guys. Because, I mean, you sort of segued us in there a little bit. The soundtrack of La La Land is so good. I'm sorry. So what was I... There are pretty much 3 major songs throughout the movie that kind of keep on coming back as these little motifs. And I just think it's amazing how they can do that, because a lot of movies these days kind of forego themes and leitmotifs.
Do you explain what a leitmotif is real quick to people that don't know?
A leitmotif is a small musical idea or phrase that's typically associated with an idea or a character, and often comes back to represent that character, whenever they're doing something cool. A good example, a classic leitmotif, the Imperial, the da 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 da, right? That's instantly, Darth Vader, the Empire. The Imperial March, like Star Wars is really good at motifs. Hamilton is literally like 4 motifs that they turn into 60 songs. It's crazy.
All Lin does is he'll take a phrase and he'll just repeat that phrase for 60 minutes, and then it turns into a masterpiece.
Wait for it.
Yeah.
Wait for it.
Anyways.
Sorry.
But there's pretty much in La La Land, there's Another Day of Sun, there's City of Stars, and there's Mia and Sebastian's theme. And those 3 songs kind of encapsulate most of the mood and theme and characters of the movie. Another Day of Sun acts as like the happy times, and things are going good, and it's Hollywood and life is great, glamorous, but it's also more of the career, pursue your dreams side of things. And then you get City of Stars, which is almost like Sebastian's soliloquy. And that is I know all the spelling bee words.
Sexy words.
And that is sort of more of the somber. It's more of a somber kind of love song, like can I make this dream come true? Like, or will I go for love? That's sort of the middle ground, but it's also acts as sort of Sebastian's theme, which I think is interesting because Sebastian's main conflict is, do I go with my career or do I stay with Mia? And I think City of Stars sort of encapsulates that. And then Mia and Sebastian's theme, which is a very Bill Evans-esque piano waltz. It reminds me a lot of Bill Evans' Waltz for Debbie.
Yes.
Yes, love that banger. But Mia and Sebastian's theme is a piano only, no words piece, but it's kind of the love side of things. So you have Another Day of Sun, which is the dreams. City of Stars, which is somewhere in the middle, and Mia and Sebastian's theme, which is the love side of things. And I think those three songs, they choose to keep on using those motifs at various points throughout the movie. And I think that was a really good selection of sort of showing the whole theme of dreams versus love and expectation versus reality. But just the soundtrack on a whole, man.
Is absolutely fantastic. And it's so integral to the core of the movie.
Yes, it is.
Music is inseparable from the story, and I think it's really trying to talk about the song of life and how there's some low notes and there's some high notes. And
Yeah.
And, but all in all, it's going to make something beautiful in the end, and you just got to stick through it to really see its finale.
But
Yeah.
I think one of the things that really makes it a masterpiece is the choreography that goes with it, which I knew Casey had some notes on.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So the most interesting song that displayed choreography would be Someone in the Crowd, for me personally, because it played a lot with freeze, not technically like freeze frames, but just like slow motion and like freeze, like freezing dancers in the background.
Oh, yeah, that was cool.
And just like the placement of everyone, because going back to Hallie's color theory, you have Mia in this striking blue dress and the background's very peachy, like red. And I feel like they did a great job using not only color scheme but also choreography and showing Mia's isolation in the Hollywood world, because in just like with the jump shots, like it shows very like old Hollywood in new school color. If that makes any sense, I can explain that. But it's very like you see this scene where it's like the Great Gatsby glasses getting like filled with champagne, and then it's like very like posh like parties, and Mia's just kind of sitting with people that you could think that are her friends, but they're very uppity and they just leave her, and you just see her very awkward in all these situations. And then you see kind of like her longing in like the tracking shot where she's walking between all these people, like just dancing with each other, and they're moving. It's a way to slow. They use choreography to slow down the world around her without actually having to slow down the film itself. And you just see like this, like these emotions on her face as she's walking, and she's seeing all of these people just embracing each other, and you truly do see her isolation. And then you get like the snap back to reality as someone like shows like the craziness of like, but it's a Hollywood party, so we just need someone to Aladdin backflip into this pool.
Oh god.
And then it's like back to all of these like synchronized, like someone in the crowd, and it just like speeds all the way up. So it's they do a really good job of using choreography to display pacing within the songs, with how they slowed it down and then how they just like keep speeding it up. And I feel like Someone in the Crowd is more it's very contemporary in a way. Like it doesn't stray from the obvious like tap like sharp lines, arm movements, and like we need everything to look synchronized. And if you like as you're zooming out, everyone just looks in Day in the Sun, where it's like you see all these different moments in the scene that are like they're separate, but when you look at them all together, like it's obvious that it's a whole. And I feel like that goes through like every single choreographed I mean except for like the duet choreography that we get, but that just like is an overlying like signature in Mandy Moore's choreography.
That was
Really good.
I feel so
Yeah.
I feel so educated.
I know. I feel smart now.
Gosh, so the choreography, the soundtrack, the camera work, the color. There's a lot of stuff in this movie that we all love. But I also wanted to touch just a little bit on all the nods to other Hollywood classics in this movie. From Sebastian swinging on the pole through Waste of a Wonderful Night. Very Singing in the Rain. And even the whole idea of Sebastian pushing Mia to write her own play is also very Singing in the Rain. The movie is full of Casablanca references, which I love that. I love that for it. Mia mentions how, that's the window. That's the window that Rick and
Bogart
and
Humphrey.
and they look out of in Casablanca. That was embarrassing. Mia also has a poster of Ingrid Bergman on her wall, who amazing actress. I love Casablanca. But there's so many nods to Casablanca throughout the whole movie. Even the ending is almost very. Casablanca was kind of one of the original bittersweet, not so happy endings. The two main characters decide to put aside their love for the greater good. It's a little bit different from La La Land in that it's not they put aside their love for their own interests. It's they put aside their love for the good of the world, like in World War One, World War Two. My bad. They for the greater good. Whereas in La La Land, it's the same thing where it's a bittersweet ending. They decide not to stay together, but it's a little bit subverted in that it's not for any greater good. It's for their own well-being and their own personal ambitions. So it almost calls back to the classics, but gives them a modern, realistic spin, which I thought was really smart.
I mean, we could do an entire podcast on comparing Casablanca to La La Land, and just summing up because we're nearing our time here. But both of them are movies that are focused on the reality of the world, and in a way, I think that La La Land's a much more accessible film, and as you said, it's a modernized version of what Casablanca was trying to say. It's sort of like Casablanca for children in the sense that everyone can grasp this concept of love at some point, because everyone has some sort of loving connection to someone else. But in La La Land, they explore that so beautifully and so thoroughly in a way that everyone can cling on to, because they could have so easily gone down the route with the Hollywood parties where, one of them's a drug addict or an alcoholic or something like that. But they decided to keep the message of the movie very pure and very nice and beautiful. And tying back to what I said about the Song of Life, the entire movie is a song and split up into a bunch of little parts. They have the movie segmented into the seasons. And I wanted to talk more about the seasons. I didn't really think about it, but it shows this natural progression of the world and how people, there shouldn't be a happy ending, almost. There should just be a continuation. People will live and people will go on. And La La Land perfectly explains the conflicts and the contradictions and the similarities and the joy and the sorrow and the happiness that everyone will feel in their way through the natural progression of the world. And really, it will never truly come to a close. So, does anyone have anything else to add? Or
I think you.
I think that's the perfect way to end
I
it.
think you
great way
close
to
this
end
off.
it.
Okay, well, thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of Socratic Cinema. We would love it if you liked and shared the video and subscribe if you like anything more. Our favorite thing, though, is if you leave constructive criticism, because we're always trying to look how to do things better. Check out any video essays that might be out or past episodes of the podcast. We would love it if you took a look at those. And yeah, just thank you for watching.